Hello, I am Azaraki Dragon, and today I'll be analyzing the Runaway vs. Reunited game that happened on OGN Apex a couple days ago, or yesterday, depending on where you live. We'll be taking the entire series, condensing it down into the about 10 or 15 minutes of the top points of what I want to talk about, so let's get right into it. So this is the start of map 2 on Numbani. Runaway won game 1 after Hakshaw really showed up on the Genji with Nano Blade combo. So what Reunited is doing here, we see the Winston, we see the Roadhog, and those are two pretty decent heroes against Genji. But if you keep watching, it's one of those situations where, in solo queue, you're like, wow, we need a Winston for this Genji. And someone changes to Winston, but he's never actually on the Genji. Here's a situation of that right here. If you look throughout this entire fight, Winghaven, I don't think he tagged damage onto Hackshell at all. So even though Reunited have a little bit of an idea what they want to do with this composition, they're not really playing for it, which shows that they're a little bit lost. They haven't really come back from their loss at the Overwatch Open and really figured out their entire team comp. So that means throughout this entire fight, Hackshell had no pressure on him and he was able to go around, clean up Lucio, clean up Roadhog, and clean up Ana. So now Runaway are on attack on Nimbani, and they took the first point, and what we want to talk about here is Onigod, because he's the new member of Reunited. He hasn't had as much time to coordinate with the rest of the team, and first of all, we came into this fight with Mono, Shine, and Quad, all three having ultimates, and right here we see Mono uses his Graviton Surge, only pulls in Lucio, and on top of that Shine nano boosts the Winston to kill the Lucio. So right now, Reunited are ahead in the fight, especially because we see that Onigod's ultimate is about to come up. Now let's play a little longer. Volataja has his ultimate, and so does Onigod. They can come out of this with the ult advantage for the next fight. However, Onigod uses it out of panic, I can only assume right here. And we saw that entire time, Volataja was alive, he had Pulse Bomb, but he never used it. So part of me thinks that Onigod didn't check in with Volataja to make sure he was in position for the Pulse Bomb, which only lends more toward the idea that this was a panic ultimate, which is not something you want to see out of Graviton Surge. It's such a huge, impactful ability. It's a really big miscommunication on Reunited's part, and honestly, this section of Numbani you might have just wanted to back off anyway, because it's really hard to hold second point on Numbani. You can just take the ult advantage you got because Mono used his, Shine used his, and you'd be in a better position to hold the or the third point of the map. So we're gonna go back to map 1 on Ilios because I named this clip clip 5 instead of clip 1. I wanted it to be first, but now it ended up 5th, and I already edited a bunch of the videos, so we're just going to run with it for now. But looking at the screen, we can easily tell that Reunited has ultimate advantage in this fight. For Runaway, there were only 2. Shine's almost got his ultimate, so Reunited should win this fight. So first we see Ana boosted Reinhardt on the left side. He goes in, that's good. And then we see Unfixed use his whole hog and then immediately get slept. So obviously that's a little bit too early for him. Having such a huge hitbox as Roadhog, you want to wait until the Ana's preoccupied with something else because it's really easy for her to land asleep on a Roadhog. So that just canceled that ultimate after less than 1 second. And second, you see Winghaven, he actually charged after he got the nano boost, which is something that you certainly don't want to do. Like, the only situation you want to do that in is if you can negate something else. So, like, you can charge another nano boosted target and basically negate that. So instead, he charges away from the fight. He had a bunch of people near him as well. Like, this wasn't him charging to get somewhere. He charged to try to go for 1 kill, 1 pick, and the most damage you can do off of that is 500, I think, with the nano boost, somewhere between 4 or 500. Meanwhile, instead, he chooses to do this. Hakshal gets completely free reign over his entire team. So instead of him being there to help the team, help hit Genji and every other target that was there, because there were 3 or 4 people that he could hit in an AoE with his auto attacks, instead he charges, he loses out on all that damage, loses out on the pressure, and Hakshal just does whatever he wants and wins the fight for the rest of his team. So now we're back on Numbani, Reunited is on offense, and we're going to be talking about this clip for quite a while because it really shows how lost Reunited is in this current meta. So we have Winston Genji Tracer. That's good. That's a poke, or that's, sorry, not poke, that's dive comp. A textbook dive comp right there. Those are the 3 cores of it, and 3 out of the 4 cores actually. And so the rest we have to talk about. So Lucio, fine, that's pretty standard. He speed boosts people, good in a dive comp. There aren't really many supports that can be run in a dive comp, but we'll get onto that a little bit later. Onigod on Diva is a really weird choice. Zarya would be better because she can shield in whoever's going to dive, and she gets a lot of free damage, free everything, and she can still protect the supports after everyone else dives in as well. Instead, they run the Diva, who has a lot of mobility, but she can't actually do anything while she's using the mobility. Like, Winston can move at full speed while he's attacking. Diva actually has to stand still, basically, while she's attacking. She gets almost no movement speed. So it's not huge in a dive comp, but that can be passed up. That's forgivable. The big thing is that Ana is not the pick you want to do here. Zenyatta is so important in a dive comp, and Reunited just sort of forgot about this. And we know that they can play Zenyatta because the meta right before this was all about Zenyatta Lucio. And so the importance of Zenyatta is you have the Harmony Orb to put on Unfixed, put on Volataja, or even Winghaven, and they can dive into the backline, they can stay there for a really long time, and you coordinate with your team to put the Discord Orb on the priority targets. Like, say Unfixed says, I'm going on to Shine, Discord Orb goes on to Shine as well. They coordinate that. Shine dies almost instantly, especially if Volataja and Winghaven also focus him. So instead they have Ana, who isn't really going to be able to do much to this dive comp. Everyone's going to be breaking line of sight. She can't heal anything. She can't charge Nano Boost. So now as the fight breaks out, we can see a little bit of what's going on. First of all, Ana's up on the ledge with the rest of her team, so it's going to be a little hard to get to her. Winston jumps in, that's all fine, and then Unfixed takes a lot of damage, and then suddenly he's dead. Alright, so now pause. Imagine if Unfixed had a Harmony Orb on him. He could retreat a little bit, he could take even half a second, and he doesn't have to be in line of sight of the Zenyatta. Like, he can dance around, he can do whatever he wants, whereas Morte, in order to heal, can't do any of that. So Unfixed dies right off, and look at Morte's charge. He's at 17%, meanwhile Shine is at 58%. So he hasn't been able to build his nano boost at all during this fight, because everyone in a dive comp is so focused on diving that they can't stay in range and in line of sight of Ana. So now as the rest of the fight breaks out, you just keep an eye on Morte's charge. He gets a little bit every now and again, but overall, the amount of charge he gets is the amount he's healing. He's not getting any charge, therefore he's not healing, therefore the rest of his team is just dying for free. And so they're going to lose this fight pretty handily, and honestly, they should have run Zenyatta. It's a part of the standard dive comp, and apparently Reunited is just so fixated on this whole Ana needs to be played no matter what, and given she is really strong, but if you're going to run a dive comp, you need to have dive heroes, and Zenyatta is such a crucial part of it. Okay, so now we're on Hanamura, third map in the best of 5. Obviously Runaway won the second map because you see they have 2 map wins on the top left and Reunited have 0. Looking before this fight starts, Runaway have effectively 1 ult, but they're about to have a second one, so I guess that would be effectively 2 ults. They have Blizzard and Sound Barriers coming up really fast. Reunited have 4, maybe 5, because Onigod has Graviton Surge coming up very soon, and Cruz might actually get his ultimate during this fight as well. So Reunited have a huge ult advantage coming on into this fight, so you expect them to be able to take it. So now as the fight starts to break out, early on you see the Dragon Blade, as well as the Nano Boost goes on to Winston, and the Dragon Blade Unfixed uses Dragon Blade. But way in the back of the screen here you can see he's actually chasing Ana way off screen, and so he ends up picking up the Ana kill, and you'll see that in a second, but Ana has 200 health, and maybe she grenades herself, so effectively 300 health if she uses everything. So by chasing her down, you're getting no more than 300 damage from that Dragon Blade. Like, there's no possible way you can do more damage than that if you chase Ana. So he ends up chasing Ana, which means Dragon Blade did as much damage as 1 fully charged Widow headshot. That's not the kind of value you want out of an ultimate, and he really should have stayed with the rest of his team to actually put out damage. Now the Blizzard comes out, so that stops him a little bit, but there's still a couple of targets that are outside the range of the Blizzard. So now the rest of the fight plays out, and at this point we sort of have to be convinced that Onigod is just bad at landing Graviton Surges when he gets them in the middle of the fight, because this only gets 1 person, and I don't know if Hakshal did this on purpose, but he actually saved Mono by putting up the wall there and putting him out of range of Pulse Bomb, which was really good, but it also shows that he was the only one who actually got caught in the Graviton Surge in the first place. So again, Onigod whiffed that a little bit. Now, the other thing that turned this fight, and this isn't really anything bad on Reunited's part, maybe a little bit bad positioning to be sort of in a cone in front of Reinhardt, but Kaiser lands a 3-man Earth Shatter, and this part right here is basically what ends up turning the fight around. And throughout the rest of the fight, it lasts for a really long time. A lot of stuff happens, but nothing too substantial to talk about. Either that or it was off screen. But the big takeaway that I want to get here is that Reunited had a huge ult advantage at the beginning, but the fight dragged on so long because they couldn't finish any targets, with Genji running off and chasing the wrong targets and not doing any damage. They couldn't finish anyone off, and that allowed Runaway to have the time to build up their ults like that Earth Shatter, and they actually managed to use almost the same amount of ultimates that Reunited did throughout the course of the fight. So they didn't play toward their ult advantage well enough. So now we speed on to the next fight, and Reunited again have ult advantage, and we're going to see another one of these. They're kind of lost in the current meta. So they have 4 ults to, it's actually 2, because Shine just used his ultimate. Like this frame is the frame after he uses his ultimate, and it's currently draining from 100 to 0. And then they also have the Earth Shatter. So as we play the fight out, we can see that Reunited, whoever calls the go for their team, called the go because Cruz used the sound barrier. So that means they are committing to this fight. Sound barrier is not one of those ultimates that you want to use just for the sake of using it. Like, maybe you can do that with Nano Boost because it charges so quickly, but with sound barrier, if you use it, you're going to go in. So now Reunited is split up. Unfixed and Cruz are on the left side of this doorway in front of you. Meanwhile, Valataja and Morte are where you see them now. I'm not really sure where Onigod or Winghaven are, but we're going to continue the clip, and you're going to see that this entire time there's no nano boost from Morte. He's just going to continue sitting on it and sitting on it and sitting on it, and what that tells me is I think that Reunited are stuck in the whole, we can only use nano boost if we have something to combo it with, whereas in reality a nano boosted Reaper is still incredibly scary. Even if he doesn't have Death Blossom, he can still put out a ton of damage. And you know, that just means that Unfixed is not tanky enough, he dies pretty instantly, and there's no one on the team to deal damage. So they committed the sound barrier, but committed nothing else. Overall, it's a huge net loss for them, and even though they had ult advantage, they lost the fight. So now here we have another fight, and again, Reunited has ult advantage, which is a pretty common theme, Reunited losing fights with ult advantage. So already from this screen you can see the ults being used. Nano Boost was used on Winston, and again, this is sort of like a sort of mentality where I guess maybe Unfixed isn't confident enough to get Nano Boost, or maybe Reunited just think that if you don't have Death Blossom, then there's no point in Nano Boosting Reaper, which is obviously a fallacy. And then on top of that, Valataja used his ultimate for some zoning, but we'll get into that in just a little bit. And so as we continue the VOD, we're going to see that Deadeye I mentioned, and the first question we are going to ask is, why exactly, Valataja, are you Deadeyeing here? So he's in the thick of everything. Hakshal has been on him this entire time, and actually managed to get the frame, the exact frame he dies on, because his health bar went down to 0, but he's still in Deadeye, and his health still says 34. So this sort of, again, this is a really questionable decision, because he's trying to distract everyone, take attention to him instead of the rest of the team, but at the same time, they ulted the Winston, so the rest of his team doesn't really have that much pressure in the first place, not as much if they would have ulted the Reaper, and on top of that, he's just going to die really quickly. Like, he could have put out so much more damage, he could use his flashbang, there's so much more he could have done if he would have held on to that and actually just ran around left-clicking. So now we're going to see another attack. This time, Runaway has 4 ults, Reunited have 2, and Winghaven almost has his. So Runaway's going to win this fight. That's probably really obvious by now. But first of all, they Reunited finally get their Death Blossom Nano Boost combo going. And Unfixed actually goes the wrong way. Like, he sees a mono on Zarya, target locks on him, and I guess he just doesn't realize that there are 5 people on the other side of him. So if he'd have actually just came out of that door and walked left, he would have gotten 3 kills at least. Maybe maybe Quad would have stepped in. Maybe Hawkshaw would have jumped in closer. There are a bunch of things that could have happened, but those are 3 kills that you pretty much could definitely have gotten if you'd have just gone the other way instead of going for mono. So first of all, that's the first mistake there. So now they're gonna play out the rest of this fight, and good boop right there by Runner, knocking Unfixed back so he only got 1 of those kills instead of 2. And now here is the next big thing. So another miscommunication or just lack of communication by Reunited. Morty shouldn't have died there. Or at the very least, he should have died a little bit more gracefully. But as it stood, he had no idea that Morte was even there, or that Hawkshaw was even there with the Dragon Blade. And it's as simple as Nano Blade behind. 3 words, and suddenly your team is aware of where Hawkshaw is. But this entire fight, he was probably going to get the kill either way, sure. But the fact that Morte didn't even know he was there, like maybe he could have landed a sleep dart, but the fact that he didn't know he was there means that nobody even said that Hawkshaw was behind them, and that is a huge miscommunication. So now we're gonna just continue this fight again, and we're gonna keep talking about, okay, so Reunited right now, they got 3 picks, that's really good, but we've been seeing so many times that they can't finish anything off, and here's another boop, and so part of me wanting to show this entire clip is how really just good Runner's been. So Reunited can't secure any kills, they're letting everyone come back, there's another boop, you just saw him on the right side over there, and now Unfixed goes in, uses his ult, boop, away from the rest of the team. Runner clutched a lot of this fight out for the rest of his team that a lot of people haven't noticed that, but that is so huge, and I just want to commend him, even though I'm mostly talking about what Reunited did wrong. So again, they can't finish anyone, so they ended up letting Runaway get back onto the point, build more ultimates, and that's the biggest thing, is that throughout all of these fights, Runaway were building ultimates so often that even if Reunited come in with an advantage, then Runaway is just going to have it by the end anyway. And at the very end there, you did also see another Panic Graviton Surge. So Onigod is, maybe this is land nerves, I'm not sure, he's the new to the team, but he's let go of a lot of those Graviton Surges completely needlessly, or after his team has died, or just haven't hit anyone with them. So I didn't talk there for a reason, and if you didn't see what was going on, I hope you at least heard it. So basically, the 3 ultimates went out. Or sorry, 2 ultimates. Onigod's Graviton Surge, plus the Pulse Bomb from Valataya. That's good. That's good right there. The only problem is that Unfixed put up a wall there. So it walled off half the team from being able to get hit by the Pulse Bomb Graviton Surge combo. So really very quick, very easy to spot miscommunication right there, and that already hurt them at the start of this fight. A couple of other things I want to mention. Unfixed has his ult, he has Blizzard. Shine has the Nano Boost, and Shine is going to use the Nano Boost really quickly, as you're going to see. So Unfixed has Blizzard for this entire fight, and just looking at Reunited's comp, they're actually kind of low on damage. The main source of damage that they have to rely on is Valataja on Tracer, and then they have some Mei right clicks, some Morte left clicks or right clicks, but it's not overall too much damage. So you're going to notice both sound barriers go out, Kaiser is nano boosted, he's hammering people, yada yada whatever. Reunited, you see their comp, they all died without dealing a lot of damage, and that's the fault of their comp. Meanwhile, Unfixed still hasn't used Blizzard. Still no Blizzard. There's the Blizzard. He's dead. Everyone else is dead. It's way too late for him to use Blizzard. I'm really surprised he didn't use it any time earlier during the fight, and you know that he was there for the fight because he was the one who walled off to prevent the Graviton Surge Pulse Bomb combo from killing more people, so Unfixed at the end not putting up a good performance here. It's just, this entire fight at the end was weird for Unfixed, but I'm gonna wrap it up here. This was the best of 5 series between Runaway and Reunited. The big takeaways: Reunited doesn't know how to play this meta exactly. They nano boost the wrong targets. They think that you can't nano boost Reaper unless he has Death Blossom, or that sometimes other targets aren't viable, but they also nano boosted Winston sometimes, which was kind of odd. And they also played a dive comp without Zenyatta, even though Zenyatta is also pretty good against Genji too. Like, he can deal a lot of damage to Genji, and he can also transcendence the Dragon Blades. So a lot of weird things going on with Reunited right now. I'm not going to take anything away from Runaway. Hawkshaw played really great. Runner, I really wanted to highlight that series of right clicks he had back there. But Reunited definitely underperformed during this tournament. And over the past month, for the most part, like, they're just not comfortable in this meta whatsoever. I'm Azaraki Dragon. This was my analysis of Runaway versus Reunited. I hope you learned something. I hope you had some sort of takeaway. I'm also trying to break into Overwatch shoutcasting, so if there's any feedback that you have, please let me know.